Hello, and everybody, and welcome in once again to the Super Serious Sports Show, a presentation of CentralCityRadio.com. We are here in the CCR.com studios, and this week, once again, I am joined by a guest. A lot of me is not that great of a thing, so Paige, Denny, thank you for coming in and making this thing a reality. Can't wait to kind of go through the local scene and everything else that's going on.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So we've become acquainted. We had a mutual friend back where I'm from in Cleveland that worked with you on an NFL website.
Yeah.
That was, what was the niche there? It was female writers?
Yeah, all female writers. And just women get so passionate about football, but it's kind of an underserved market. So it was cool to see just women pitch stories and the way they think about football, which is kind of different. So, yeah.
Okay, so you grew up, you're one of the, six natives
from
Arizona.
And I married one of the other six natives.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So, my husband's also native.
So, do you follow the rules to a T when it comes to rooting interest in all of sports? And maybe I know the answer to this, but I'm going to let you respond and elaborate a little bit.
Yeah, so unusual fandoms for sure. I was born in 85, so some of the teams that people root for in Arizona now weren't here. So, like, the Coyotes weren't here, and the Diamondbacks weren't here. And the Diamondbacks won the World Series when I was 16. So I already had a pretty entrenched fan relationship as an Indians fan, which is an abusive relationship. But I feel like all my sports relationships are abusive, so to me. But my parents saved me from Browns fandom, so I was a Cardinals fan growing up.
You were perhaps fortunate, and I didn't end up going. My wife and I didn't have children, but we always talked about it and how it would do the best justice to our children to allow them to have common rooting interests with their friends at school and everything. And they're going to respect that mommy's a Cubs fan, and these are just fictional kids, so who gives a shit? But they're going to have a little bit of rooting interest in the Cubs if they want to follow mommy into what was a very desolate world not too long, not more than 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Or daddy into Browns fandom, which hope springs eternal. And let me tell you how important this show is that the Browns are playing their third preseason game. They're playing the dress rehearsal right now as we record on a Sunday night. And I'm here at the CentralCityRadio.com studios talking it up with Paige Denny.
Well, obviously, preseason football is not exciting to watch. And I watched the extent of the preseason I've watched this year is about 15 minutes of the Steelers game that Ben played in. So,
and that wasn't the Hall of Fame game.
No, no.
Were they playing the Eagles in that one?
I don't even. Who were they playing? Kansas? Was they playing? No, I don't even remember. That shows you how much I paid attention. I was on my phone the whole time. I'm like, preseason football really doesn't excite me, so I just don't pay attention.
It's so funny. My Uncle Jack back in Cleveland is a season ticket holder, and somebody called him up and said, "Hey, I want to do a special thing for my husband. My husband's 60th birthday, and it'd be really special if I could take him to a Browns game." And Uncle Jack's got premium tickets. Just far enough off the field that you're not too close, that you're peering over the players' heads.
Yeah.
And he says, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm not going to be able to use my tickets for the preseason game against the Giants next weekend." And she's like, "Oh, that's not going to work at all." And she hangs up. So she had to find a plan B because Jack's not giving up his 8 season tickets when, holy cow, the team might actually be good.
They might actually be good this year. But we've been saying that. I'm not a Browns fan, but I'm a Browns advocate. I want the Browns to be good because I want my Cleveland family. Most of my family is still back there. I want them to have a sports team to be proud of. And now that the Indians are the Guardians, and that's it's a weird thing. I can't even. I know. So I'm rooting for the Browns, even though I'm not a Browns fan. But I hope it's good this year. I hope Baker looks good.
So you supplementally support the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's just let the cat out of the bag. Yeah. I've grown kind of tired of
being a Cardinals fan for a variety of reasons. So I kind of stopped being a fan of any team for a season or two. And the Steelers are so fun to watch. And my husband's a Steelers fan, so it's super fun to just enjoy it with him. And the organization stands behind the players, so I really like that. But
I like how we first became acquainted. We were eating barbecue down at the Crafty Devil's Tailgate. What is it? North End Zone parking lot. Just beer smorgasbord. And you're the designated driver, so you don't really take advantage of that part. But different types of smoked meats, anything you do on the grill, it's out in front of the home games for us each and every week. We've got a great group of friends that I'm almost not as interested in the Sun Devils. I like playing the part because I like the party. I like the atmosphere. And, I've been behind the microphone and I've written long enough and I've been in the press box there. But I would rather sweat it out in the parking lot before the game, and I would rather sit. I would rather sit on the metal seats. There's not going to be so many metal seats down there anymore.
Yeah, thankfully.
But I really do appreciate the party. So I hear you talking about how your husband's a journalist and that he's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and I'm like, wait, this is all sounding familiar because I've been acquainted with you online through through our friend Cleveland Kate.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you Paige? And you're like, we're like Facebook friends, aren't we? And and after a couple of years, I think that we just basically had an appointment to hang out every Saturday. The Sun Devils were at home, and they're going to be at home this week. Not this weekend, but this Thursday.
Thursday, yeah. Super excited. Who are we playing again?
Southern Utah.
I know. I knew the answer to the question, but it's like it's like a 5-second brain delay of like, who is that team we're playing?
Well, I was going to do like
it's a weird matchup. Like I'd rather play NAU, honestly.
Yeah, but you them and the Sun Devils, they have to rotate playing them. And,
I guess.
But I don't really like the Pac-12 scheduling. I liked it when it was round robin. I like when it was actually 10 teams. The addition of Colorado, the addition of Utah, it just seems like it just reminds me of how they failed, how they tried to pull that coup on the Big 12 and become the 16 pack.
Yeah.
And they just came up so short, and they're like, well, we got Colorado.
Here's your consolation prize. You get Run Ralphie Run. Like that might be the coolest mascot in Pac-12 though.
I've only seen them play. Well, I've seen them play the Sun Devils here, obviously, but I've only seen them play CSU in the Rocky Mountain Showdown. So I haven't been to a game out.
I haven't either, but Brad says that like that's the best game experience is seeing Ralphie run, and Buffalo are awesome anyway. So,
have you gone on many Pac-12 road trips?
A few. Mostly to California because it's driving distance. It's always during my really busy season with my day job. Mm-hmm. And so it's really hard to get away. But
we've had to be creative about it. We stuck over to Los Angeles, the Los Angeles area in 2014. And this was a day that the Territorial Cup was going on in Tucson on Black Friday. And Stanford was playing UCLA at the Rose Bowl. And both the Arizona teams needed Stanford to win that game, and they won it going away. And I don't remember, Hunley went down, and Jerry Neuheisel had to come into the game, and I'm all excited about that. And then I see that the Sun Devils get within a score, and then the Wildcats go back up. And fortunately, we haven't had too many of those negative Territorial Cup experiences over the last couple of years.
No, it's the cup is where it belongs, and I pray it stays here. I mean, last year was epic. 70-7 was like one of my all-time favorite.
We were in Vegas
ASU
that weekend. It was. I was like, did they really just score again?
Because it was trouncing.
And nobody was there to. Nobody got to witness it. But if you go to Cactus Sports' website, if you look at the billboards that have been purchased, it's been talked about.
Yeah, extensively, and I think that is unilaterally one of the best memories for an ASU fan, just because we beat those jerks, and not only did we beat them, we scored a TD on the opening kickoff. Like a kickoff return for a touchdown is the best way to start a 70-7 route. So
it was like the beginning of one of those coming of age movie, like Bad News Bears types, or Necessary Roughness. I think would be the perfect example where they just don't even know how to play football the first game of the year.
Yeah,
Waterboy, probably a more contemporary choice to. But they all fit that same model, and that's exactly what they get. And there was no redemption for you then.
No, none at all, as it should be.
And it was a rough start because there was, you looked at that USC game, and no matter how much you wrote off or put an asterisk on the 2020 college football season, especially the Pac-12 and even the Big Ten, Big Ten, MAC, Pac-12, they all got out of the starting blocks really late, and on the national scene, they weren't even looked at. I don't think that there was an honest consideration for even possible undefeated Pac-12 team a year ago. So it was an exhibition season in the truest sense of the word.
Yeah, and it's hard to draw any kind of conclusion as to what ASU is going to look like this year based on 2020. I think it's impossible.
What's the fear going down the road for the, if all of these things are equal, meaning that they don't get in trouble, that they don't have opportunities taken away from them, what's the fear among the true fan base of this team?
I think it's, I don't even know if it's a fear as much as just a kind of this like cloud hanging over us of like, this might be the most talented team we've had since the 90s. And to see it fizzle out, I think, is the biggest fear. Like, to just see people not reach their potential. Chase Lucas came back. We're stacked on defense.
Is Merlin still there?
Is who?
Robertson?
Merlin. I believe so.
Okay. Yeah, because last year was kind of this... I know,
it's a weird... because Ashari Crosswell left, and
Yeah.
that was kind of befuddling, and it looks like he might do something up in Seattle, which is cool, but... kind of a weird year for people to decide if they're coming back or not, or if they're gonna, if their draft stock can get any higher, or if, it's weird.
The hardest thing about watching Herb's program is that it is designed to put guys into the NFL, and sometimes that means that we're going to see them, 6 or 7 times down at Sun Devil Stadium. As long as they stay healthy all year. I think with it, Frank Darby, he was a guy I knew for 1 year. Ayuk, Benjamin, and that's just guys of late. And they're not there for very long. It seemed like Marion Grice was there for a long time. It seemed like Cameron Marshall was there for a long time. But that's the Graham era versus the Herm Edwards era, and I don't dwell. I don't dwell. I thought that Graham did a pretty good job, but he wasn't an overwhelming hire. But they had the whole June Jones debacle that preceded that. So Sun Devil football is kind of a tough thing for me to grab onto. Now that 2013 team was special because they got to host the Pac-12 championship, so that set the bar kind of high. But I can remember suffering through Danny Sullivan starts at quarterback, and I did ask you if you could recount some of your favorite Sun Devil moments, because it was a hot night in October. It was like October 20th, and they're playing UW at home, and spoiler alert, I've never seen Washington win up close. I've seen them lose to get drilled by Oklahoma State in the Cactus Bowl. We watched the team in Tucson kick a walk-off field goal against them. Every time that we've seen this team, we've seen them lose, and this was a game that I think Vontez Burfict, believe this or not, committed a penalty of the 15-yard sword.
Wow, that's really shocking. Vontez never does that. That's such a rarity.
And they basically gave Washington the entire field to where they were down 4 with with like 59 seconds to go. And Danny Sullivan, everybody's talking about benching him for Brock Osweiler, and he hits Chris McGahee behind the entire defense. And that was worth because I talked to people that were there. It's like, did you see how it finished? They're like, no, we left early. And that's such
I hate that
common
too.
thing.
It is a common thing, and I have never left a game early, and I never will. And I can't even remember what year it was. I think it was, I don't know, maybe 2016, 2017. We were playing USC, and we were just getting the pants beat off of us. And I was there with a girlfriend, and she was like, well, I'm going to go home. And I said, all right, have a nice night. And she's like, you're not coming? And I said, no, I've never left a game early, nor will I ever. Because stuff changes the tide. So my favorite ASU story, the favorite moment I've ever witnessed in sports history for me was an ASU moment. 2014, October 4th, which is the last time, coincidentally, my husband shaved his face. But the Jail Mary. So I'm sitting in the Coliseum. I had a business trip that week, so I had flown home and then was home for 4 hours, and then we drove to LA. And so that next day, obviously, I'm at the game, and I was there basically by myself. And Brad's in the press box, and I start coming down with the flu. And literally in the middle of the game, I'm like shivering. I got sweats. Like, I can feel I'm getting sick. I'm getting achy, and I'm like, okay, well, I can go either sit in the car, be miserable until Brad's done working and we can drive home, or I can just hang out and watch the game. I'm just going to hang out and watch the game. It does no harm. The entire section around me, the only people that were left was Tayshaun Smallwood's dad and me. We were the only ASU fans left in this entire section. And, Berkovici opens up, and we're like, hands on head, no, there's no way. There's no way this pass is going to get completed. And then Jalen goes up and catches it. And, we eyed each other, Turner, just were so excited. And we had nobody to celebrate with. So this is why I never leave a game early, because you literally never, unless it's a 77 blowout, anything's possible.
Yeah. Well, and you always wait till the end of the UFC game because you want to see where the AD is going to hire the head coach, whether it's Sky Harbor Airport or in the visitors' locker room at SDS.
Yeah. I mean, Clay's held on for a long time.
He's out. He's out if they don't win the Pac-12.
Well, yeah.
Kelly's out, right?
I mean, I don't know. That guy's had a longer life in football than I expected. So, as a coach, I don't know.
Okay, Rolovich is probably out for reasons unrelated to football.
Yeah. The speculation around that too is crazy. Twitter just can't handle that Nick Rolovich just doesn't want to get jabbed for whatever reason. No, we don't even know why. It could be a medical reason. It could be none of our dang business. But
yeah, and there's probably a medical encyclopedia that's this thick that of reasons that he won't answer. But everybody's like, no, he just thinks this way. Well, he's got confirmation bias.
I want to know what is on the list for Washington State athletic department when they're getting ready to hire a head coach for the football team. Mike Leach. I mean, the guy was kooky, super fun to watch, hysterical. I mean, his tweets are the weirdest thing ever. It's one of 3 accounts I actually have alerts for when there's a tweet because it's just priceless every time. But they have a weird pattern of picking strange coaches with weird personalities.
Bobby Knight.
Yeah, I mean,
and then they hired Pat right behind him.
I know.
And ASU hasn't hit it out of the ballpark hiring basketball coaches.
I mean, I like Bobby, but there's I feel like it's hard to be a coach and a player in general because nothing you do is ever going to meet everybody's expectations. So, and ASU is a hard place because we have had success, but we haven't had it in a while. So,
best thing about Bobby is that he's not Herm Sedek. I wonder what he had on Lisa Love that he got so many years. And it was funny because everybody was so quick to want to give Erickson an extension. And, you felt like it was a week or 2 away. And then he dumps a couple of games in California. We could have just held on to Dirk Cutter. And I think that there was actually somebody in between them, wasn't there?
Oh, between Cutter and...
No, I actually don't think they both introduced tight ends that had never played for them. That were announcing their intention to go to the NFL. I think Cutter had to sit with Todd Heap, and then was it maybe Miller that sat with Erickson, and they wouldn't let him do it on campus because it wasn't the right decision for him.
Pac-12 football in general is just strange, and ASU plays into that real well. And Lisa Love was, she's the train wreck. So, and the investigation now, I think I don't even know that it's going to have that much of an impact on the season from a fan perspective because all the fans I'm really seeing are whatever, this is a big nothing burger. The NCAA is toothless. They didn't do any, it's not like Baylor where, they continuously allow
Are we talking about Baylor
assault.
Basketball 20 years ago or Baylor football 10 years ago?
Football 10 years ago, but we can go back to basketball. It's not even an SMU level cheating scandal. So, you recruited in a dead period. There's some other stuff that's floating around that may or may not be true, but maybe
they'll punish them by having them play all their games on the Pac-12 network during the season.
And some of the weird game times too. like a Thursday. I mean, I hate Thursday night games. I don't know how you feel about them, but I genuinely hate them. I think they're horrible.
I don't like a large quantity of them. I hate the NFL games. I think that it's absolutely unnecessary. And I bet you that the NFL at some point will just stomp all over high school football and start playing on Fridays too.
Probably.
They played every night of the week last year.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, America needed that. Let's be honest.
Well, I mean, we were in a period. I think that we were in that period that we had the carriage fee dispute. At DirecTV customers anyway, and I always speak as a DirecTV customer. So when I kind of just speak openly about the Pac-12 network, I've never really watched any of their programming because I don't know how to get to any of their programming.
That's why we're stuck with Cox, because we have to have Pac-12 network. And that's the only way to get it without doing Sling. And Cox has, I mean, I could rail on Cox forever. But yeah, Pac-12, I mean, I think it's a good concept. It's just so poorly executed.
How about this alliance? So speaking of poor execution, how about the alliance between the Pac-12, the Big 12, and the Big 10, or between the ACC, I think it was. And they didn't have any contracts. They didn't have anything they didn't have an event scheduled. They didn't have a concept to present. And they're just like, yeah, we're all getting along. We're coming for you, SEC.
Well, that's exactly it, right? Like, SEC is just the big elephant in the room, and everybody wants to try and take it down. But, I mean, you're not going to.
I'm Mr. Anti-SEC. You can't tell me. You tell me 13 of the last 23 years. It's like that's a really oddly specific time period to pick. It's almost like you plucked it just to make the SEC look better. And if they're the best conference, you just lay out the numbers and let them speak for themselves. And I think that they're a very top-heavy conference. And I know that LSU won the national championship 2 years ago, but they had a graduate transfer. They had some mitigating circumstances. And Jamar Chase. I don't know if I know that we make a proclamation not to watch preseason football, but I'm reading social media, and it sounds like he's afraid of getting hit after he catches the ball. That's why LeBron James quit playing the high school football after his sophomore year, because he didn't like getting hit by 135-pound kids from Mogadore, Ohio.
I mean, I don't think anybody I don't like getting hit. That's why I don't play football. And also,
that's sound logic.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Very
I value
logic.
my brain and my teeth and.
Oh, if only I would have had those same values when I was 14, I'd probably be doing better than sitting behind a microphone rambling on about what I think I know what I'm talking about. So, give me one more ASU memory. I remember the Jail Mary night. I did not see it because it was on our TV. I think it was a Fox Sports 1 Saturday night game because it was really late. It was probably like 10:30 at night when that game ended. And I remember I went to they didn't have the ball. USC drilled them deep. And Dirk Cutter would have just punted the ball back to them, and I think he did against USC once upon a time. But that play did happen in 2014, and I just remember coming back in the room, I see all these guys in black and white jerseys, celebrating on the field. I was like, are they just happy to see each other? And she's like, oh no. And my wife Jen, she picks up the DVR and she winds it back. I was like, yeah. And of course, I see 4 replays before I see before we get back to the live action call. But it was something else, and that's the back end of my Thanksgiving trip to California that year, was seeing the Stanford and UCLA. First time I've ever been to the Rose Bowl. I need to return for a Rose Bowl game, but the back end of that trip was Saturday. Notre Dame was playing USC at the Coliseum.
Yeah.
And we had to park truly in South Central Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a great part of town.
No.
There's some great food around there, though, but it's not a great part of town. It's a weird stadium too. I mean, I haven't been there in a while, and I know that they've completed some renovations, but it's this really beautiful, architecturally stadium. From a design perspective, it's gorgeous, but then the execution on the restrooms, if people think that ASU restrooms were bad before the big redo in the Sun Devil Stadium, they hadn't been to USC because those restrooms weren't any better either.
No, and we were it's sardine sitting there, totally. it is at all the old traditional stadium. Yeah. You see the Cotton Bowl game with Oklahoma and Texas. They're squeezed in there. I hear people they go to the games at the Big House in Ann Arbor and they say you go to the bathroom before you sit down, because you're going to be in your seat the entire game.
Yeah, you're not getting up.
And if somebody gets up, they're a pain in the ass.
Oh, yeah.
Because then you got to wait for them to come back too. So they disrupt twice, and they disrupt like 300 people because that's how how much seating there is. I thought the Rose Bowl was a cool stadium.
Yeah, it is a cool stadium.
And we thought the outside of the Coliseum was really nice. Now that they're a lot more casual, especially with even with a rival like Notre Dame coming into the Coliseum. So we were around these like really cordial USC fans, and they were up 14 to nothing over that Notre Dame team in 2014. so I have the story of the ASU game, and I was like, "Were you guys here for it?" And they're like, "Yeah, it was unbelievable." Because for one team, it's like it's the greatest achievement ever, and then on the flip side of that coin is just the downright disappointment. And they're like, we just kind of looked over there, and he just reached up and grabbed it. Where did he come from? Why didn't they try to stop him?
It was an unreal. I mean, nobody could have guessed, and I was on that same side of the field, so it was the coolest thing to watch from that vantage point. But I mean, those are kind of like once in a lifetime kind of things that, the losing team is never really gonna. I feel like their fans will like, that thing happened, but we've moved on from that, and we're just gonna laud that forever. So
well, I got Hail Married the day that the Diamondbacks beat the Yankees in Game 7 of the World Series. I'd been here 6 weeks. So, I'm this Cleveland fan my entire life. My dad was, he was a Cleveland police officer. He was good friends with the assistant groundskeeper down at Cleveland Stadium. So anytime we wanted tickets to a game, we had two right behind the visitors' bullpen because that's where the groundskeeping shack was. So I lived with those, and they were terrible Indians teams throughout the 80s. You kind of
oh God, so bad.
You looked at who was coming into town. You're like, okay, Kansas City Royals, Willie Wilson, George Brett, that'll be fun to see. And even though they were aging by the time, right around the time you were born, when it was my heyday of going to Indians games as a kid. Rod Carew and Reggie Jackson playing for the Angels, and it seemed we had we were in the AL East back then. The Indians were, and they had Boston come through a lot. My dad has the same story that they that aired as an episode of Cheers.
Yeah.
Where and they went to gentlemen's clubs because that's where they could be left alone. They can't be left alone because of TMZ and the amateur paparazzi out there anymore. But the players would sit at gentlemen's club. They'd tip the employees, and they'd have conversations. And my dad had been hanging out with these guys. He was good friends with Mike Stanley, who was pitching when Mookie Wilson, behind the bag, he gets through Buckner. He had been one of my dad's closer friends, and there was a guy with a beard. And at the end of the night, my dad goes up to him, and it was dark. It was dark because of the nature of the clubs that it was. And he says, "Hey, I didn't catch your name." He's like, and the guy looks at it. He's like, "I'm Wade Boggs. I'm Wade Boggs, man. Come on, I'm Wade Boggs." And then there was an episode of Cheers where they thought that Gary, that their rival tavern, Gary's Old Town
Tavern.
Gary's Old Town Tavern.
Best. The Bar Wars episodes. Those are the best.
They had Kevin McHale play one of their pickup games.
Yeah.
I do like Cheers. I like going out. I don't know how much you guys get out to the bars and do anything other than cover sports and watch sports on the local scene here, but.
I mean, we were pretty much home,
Domesticated.
Yeah, very.
And you've been married for how long now?
6 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
6 years of wedded bliss. Yeah.
Jen and I just hit 14.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. And, my parents have had multiple marriages. And, I never.
So you got one that stuck.
Yeah, and I was
She's
always.
amazing, by the way. So.
I agree. Yeah, she used to sit where you sat, and then, we do the syndicated show during the week. So, she got a lot on her plate already.
Yeah.
And she doesn't eat it up like I do. She likes making sarcastic comments.
She's busy on the Cubs, like, did they win or did they lose today?
Cubs and the Coyotes, so she's got a little bit of local interest. But, I thought that it was unfair for me to assume the Diamondbacks 6 weeks, after I get here. And that night, that afternoon, the Browns were playing the Bears in the late afternoon game. I still call them the 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock game from Liv and Becky. So it was the 4 o'clock game. And the Browns were up 21-7 with like no time left. Cade McCown was still playing quarter. It was the year of the busts other than Donovan McNabb out of that 99 draft. And Cade McCown versus Tim Couch, and then this they get a Hail Mary They get an onside kick, or they get the onside kick. They get the Hail Mary to tie it at 21. The Browns get the win the toss, and they have the ball deep in their own territory. First play of overtime, and I didn't know he was a local guy at the time, but Mike Brown from I think Saguaro High School is playing safety for the Chicago Bears. There was a tip. He ran under it, and he ran. The Browns lost 27-21, and I'd left the bar. The same bar in Tempe that I left thinking the Browns had beaten the Chiefs when Dwayne Rudd took his helmet off and got flagged for a 15-yard penalty, which allowed the Chiefs to kick a winning field goal. But I thought that it was disingenuous for me to say Diamondbacks are my team.
Yeah.
And, I just come off, with the Sun Devils, I'd just come off, 3 years earlier, my childhood favorite college team, the Buckeyes, who I've disavowed. I have a lot more fun.
Is that an Urban Meyer choice, or is
it was? Well, I'm from Lake County, and you have family there too.
My whole family's from Lake County.
Jim Tressel from Monroe, Ohio.
Yeah.
He comes down, he instills values, and that's what we had over the SEC, and that's what we had over. I always thought Schembechler, and I knew that Gary Moeller was dirty, and Lloyd Carr I thought was a good guy, but the basketball program was always filthy. And then didn't we end up with the crumbs out here like Steve Fisher, and we got Ralph Friedgen, and it always seems like they come out west for solitude. But
yeah, well, because it's better out here.
But I got a lot of dirty looks wearing Ohio State stuff, and I fell I kind of fell deeper for Ohio State when I didn't have the Browns.
Yeah.
So and we had John Cooper, who did everything the last day at Arizona in his tenure at Arizona State that he couldn't do in Columbus with Ohio State. He beats Michigan to win the Rose Bowl in 1987, and he goes to Columbus, and I think he goes 2-11-1 against his rival, and like 1-5 in bowl games.
That's brutal.
And his one big bowl win was against his former school, which isn't the favorite of conversation. There's so many people that have ties back to that 96 team.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Now you were a little younger, but do you remember the ride?
No, not at all, really, because we weren't. I really didn't become an ASU fan until I attended college there. Mm-hmm. Collegiate sports was never big on my radar. We watched the Cardinals, and that was pretty much it, as a kid. So I came to my ASU fandom late, which now, in retrospect, makes me sad because I really missed an incredible era. And, I hear, Kyle Murphy, offensive lineman on the 97 team or 96 team with Jake and Pat and those guys. And so I really, missed this really cool chunk of ASU football. So I have to live vicariously through everybody else who saw it.
You and me both. Yeah, you and me both.
Or YouTube videos. Jedi always puts up those awesome YouTube videos of different games, and so.
Well, I had to ask Jedi, and it was on your recommendation for video of game day in 05, because I remember this. And it's the only time that they've ever been here, and I'm with my friends, the Preston Guards. Justin Frias.
Yeah.
So I'm with my friends, and they pick me up at 5 a.m. I'm living on the north end of Tempe, and I'm close enough that I could walk home, college in McKellips. And they pick me up, and we go to the show, and some guy just hands me a sign. So I'm holding this sign over Kirk Herbstreit's shoulder that's all day that says, it's USC is bogus, Mr. Hand, and it's Jeff Spicoli, and I'm holding it, and it's right over Kirk's shoulder. Somebody got, this is a 2-hour show. This guy comes down at about 8:15. He says, "Dude, I watched the first hour. That sign is all over the show." I called my mom. I was like, "Turn on ESPN." And this is in the days before you pull out your phone and set the DVR.
Yeah.
So I never found evidence, and I figured with all the YouTube out there and everything, I've never seen more than the actual show itself.
Yeah.
Like lead ups to the show, because they did this story on the kid that died. That was a Notre Dame fan and called their first play, and Brady Quinn threw a pass to the right, and so it was a really kind of a serious show. And, you're looking at this opponent like USC, and at that point, I think they'd won 26 straight games. They're number one in the country. ASU was 25. And you're like, what are you going to write on the sign? What are you going to write on the sign that has any merit of truth? There was a lot of distasteful, Pat Tillman side by side with O.J. Simpson, that kind of stuff. And it's crazy that it was that long ago, because it kind of feels like yesterday. I still wake up and I feel like I'm 26, and it's been a lot of years since I woke up and was I actually 26.
Same.
So
Yeah.
the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
The Arizona Cardinals moved here in 1988, so I think that them being in St. Louis for someone born when you are is pretty transparent. So they, they've been here your whole life.
My whole life, yeah.
So one Super Bowl appearance.
Yep.
Big playoff win against the Dallas Cowboys back in '98. And then I think the third top game until recently would have been the footage from that Monday night game on Christmas Day from Jerry Maguire.
Yeah.
So who do you like? Who do you like as far as Arizona Cardinals? You've been watching them, almost the entire time that they've been here.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll cut you some slack on some Stump Mitchell and Neil Lomax.
Yeah, like the late '80s, early
Dan Deerdorf,
90s.
which
right,
doesn't even apply to Arizona.
No, yeah. I mean, I'm a huge Aeneas Williams fan. I mean, he was a monster on defense.
Hall of Famer, right?
A Hall of Famer, yep. An all-around nice guy. I got to meet him when I was in Canton a few years ago. Just a genuinely nice human being. And just, like, crazy talented and humble about his accomplishments. I think he had, like, 600 and some odd tackles in his career with the Cardinals, and just an obscene amount of interceptions. I mean, just crazy talented. You can't. So then my like you asked me for my top three, and so then I got two Larrys, Larry Centers, and Larry Fitzgerald.
The fullback has become extinct anymore. Right?
I know, which is really a shame because he really revolutionized how a fullback was used in the NFL. I mean, because up to that point, really, we're just blockers. And
Sun Devils used fullbacks for a while.
Yeah,
Mike Carney, Terrell Smith.
We might be bringing him back, So, I mean, the fullback's an underrated position, but the game has changed so much. And then, I mean, Larry Fitzgerald hits like just all of the high points that you want from your favorite player. He's a genuinely nice human being. He gives back to the community. He's no drama at all. And he's incredibly talented at his position. So you watch him and you're just like, I mean, I don't know a Cardinals fan that doesn't have a love affair with Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah,
you have to.
he wears my number. He wears the number 11, and I'm always waiting for a player on one of my teams to wear that number.
Yeah.
And with ASU, it's Danny White. It's
iconic.
There are no retired numbers really in football at all anymore. They tell the teams to do their rings of honor. But I mean, when you think of it's like 42.
Yeah,
it's like 42 at
right.
ASU, and number 11 that is absolutely Danny White. And between Staubach and Aikman, that was the Cowboys jersey that everybody had in the 80s, in the 70s and 80s. So, and he was a good coach for the Arizona Rattlers. I want to talk to you because I know that you follow some of the, I'll call them ancillary sports, but I don't want to be disrespectful. But the WNBA, is it the USL or the USL2 that's out here now?
USL, yeah. I will be totally honest and say I think I've never watched more than 20 minutes of a WNBA game. And mostly that's because I find basketball not to be the most exciting sport, not because I have any issues with women playing basketball. That's actually the only organized sport I ever played was basketball. It was not very good. But yeah, I mean, so Phoenix Rising, we're season ticket holders. So just super fun. Should have won last year, the whole kit and caboodle, and stupid Tampa Rowdies or whatever they're called, weird mascot. You can tell I'm bitter. They violated all kinds of COVID protocol and they weren't able to field a team. And so, but instead of forfeiting, which is like normal process, when you can't field a team, you forfeit, right? And so then the other team wins.
You tell that to the Baltimore Ravens.
Right. Right. That's true. They just, the USL called it and just canceled the game. And so, like, 2020, no winner.
No cup winner.
No cup winner. So, but I just consider the Rising the de facto winners, so.
Okay, so you've done the pop-up stadium and the stick stadium that they've got in Gila River or Gila Bend or Wild Horse Pass.
Wild Horse Pass, yeah. Yeah, Gila. I can tell you're still the Ohio genes run strong. Gila. Yeah, I mean basically it's effectively the same stadium located at a different place, but now they have enclosed restrooms instead of porta pots, which is great.
Okay.
Big upgrade.
I saw waist deep at that drive-in site long before it became a soccer stadium. Jen, I think it was a double feature of waist deep and V for Vendetta. If that tells you
there you go. It's been a while.
We go back. Cardinals prospects this year. Third preseason game was canceled due to weather in New Orleans. It's like we've seen this movie before with the Saints.
Yeah, hurricanes are rough. I'm hoping that they survive down there. It's a rough place to live. Beautiful city, but a horrible place to have to.
Well, if there's
try and play games
and not to get
fans and during this kind of weather, it's rough.
Yeah, and not to go down like the lines of like FEMA and George W. Bush and everything that came after Katrina, but they were misplaced. And I would think that if there is a solution other than not living below sea level, that we'd learn from history in 2005. And maybe I'm just I wear the rose tinted glasses too much, and I'm just Mr. Glass half full. But we do hope for the best for them, and not to be insensitive, but probably a good thing for the Cardinals not to risk those guys coming off the cart. The cancellation of the preseason is just fine and dandy by me, and they can cancel it every year.
I mean, I feel like one game. I
think they get it done in the joint practices.
It's a brutal sport to play, and the season is long. And bye weeks are weirdly placed, that not strategic for anybody. I don't know why we can't do a common bye week so that everybody gets the same amount of rest. But I mean, that I guess I do know why fans would be sad that there wouldn't be football, but it's a tough sport, so I really don't.
I don't think they really care about the fans that much.
No, of course they don't. I mean, to a point, but I mean, it's all about money, right? You always follow the money, but I think in general, I think preseason's just one more chance for your star players to get hurt. So Ben wanted to play, to work out some kinks, and they have a new offensive coordinator, so he's, he's under center with a different guy. And
what's this cretin's name?
The
Steelers offensive coordinator.
I honestly haven't bothered to learn it because they're never there that long. And I'll learn it by mid-season if he's really terrible, because Brad will have a fire so-and-so hashtag like he did with Todd Haley.
We did one of those for the Cardinals and for the Browns. It just feels like that's a common theme wherever Todd Haley lands.
Oh, Todd Haley, yeah.
I just have him frozen in time screaming at Anquan Bolden. And if there's anybody that no coach should fuck with on the sideline, it's Anquan Bolden. He's one of the toughest damn football players I've ever seen. He broke his jaw. Kurt Warner's feelings were so hurt that he almost retired after they were playing the Jets, but they were dressed up like Titans. And Anquan Bolden was back on the field 2 weeks later. The fact that the Cardinals couldn't do more with Bolden because he just hated management here so much was a real travesty.
We have that in common. He and I, Anquan and I, have that in common.
That
we don't like the management.
I sat behind.
That's why I'm no longer a Cardinals fan.
I think it was the year that they took Anquan, but they also took Calvin Pace and Bryant Johnson in the early rounds of that draft. But I remember that we were sitting at a place that had an Ohio theme. They had the intersection of Mayfield Road and Murray Hill. They had a sign up. It was called Capistrano's or something like that, and it was on Warner. Right, it was on Warner, right across from the facility.
Okay, yeah.
And we had Rod Graves and Bill Bidwell sitting at the table behind us, and they spent their entire lunch talking about the Suns playoff game the night before. And it was the Friday before the draft was on Saturday back then.
Yeah.
So I've always
taking a break.
I've always just thought that the Cardinals management was just constantly on a lunch break. But I thought that about the Haslams when they came over from being part owners with the Steelers, and you're like, does that Rooney thing really rub off on anybody that's just part of the management group? And it was clear that they didn't know what the hell that they were doing the first couple of years, which you could just, it's like an ad lib with the Cleveland Browns. Well, GM at the time didn't know what they were doing, and they made a terrible draft pick based on fill in the blank, not respectable person. Homeless person says draft Johnny Manziel, and that's kind of, it's been more of a clown shoe history. I think the Cardinals have just been bad. I think that the Browns have been laughably bad.
Yeah, well, and that's true. I mean, the Browns, I feel like they bring their magic 8-ball to the draft, and they're just like, okay, magic 8-ball, please tell me what to do.
Not recently, not since they put the nerds in charge.
Yes. Right, and it is fun to kind of see that the Browns are better, and Cleveland fans have more to be excited about.
It had to suck watching those games. Those week 16 and week 17 games in Cleveland where they played Baltimore and Pittsburgh back to back, and neither way they played Pittsburgh and Baltimore would play their backups.
Yeah,
I mean we lost to Landry Jones
and still like kick them down the field and injure the hell out of them, and yeah, it's brutal.
Well, until January 10th, the Browns' response has always been, about some opening week game in 1989 and the Steelers' history before they hired Chuck Noll in 1969. We just didn't have a whole lot to go on,
no.
And they really still don't. They need to do a little bit more than win a playoff game that against a team. That Pittsburgh team, I believed
was decimated.
I believed in them at 11-0. I said that. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're not going to be a 19-0 team. But I looked at it and I said, they could go 13-3, and if they get the right draws in the playoffs, they could get there. And they were a dark horse Super Bowl favorite, but they really weren't.
No, not at all. And when your offensive line is so decimated like the Steelers line was last year, it's hard to make a deep run at all. I mean, I'm shocked they got as far as they did, honestly.
Yeah. But so Villanueva's out, Pouncey's out. It's a lot of rebuild. It's kind of a rare thing. I imagine there would be a level of patience that Mike Tomlin can stay there as long as he wants. But
yeah, I mean, I don't think they're unhappy with him in any way. I think the biggest concern for Steelers fans at this point, beyond just this season, is Ben's replacement.
Is it? I mean, is he on the roster?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think it's Mason Rudolph. It might be the
Haskins.
Yeah, Dwayne Haskins. But I don't know. But it's not apparent, so there's no heir apparent at this point.
Oh,
and I think
not.
Ben will play another couple seasons. This season and maybe next year. He'll be 40 next year, and the only reason I know that is he's only like a couple months younger than my husband. But
is Larry going to stay away?
Larry Fitzgerald, I think if an intriguing opportunity came up with a different team, he'd be really inclined. But my understanding from the scuttlebutt I've seen on Twitter and from some other people is that Kyler is not great in the locker room and has created kind of a wall around himself. He's not a real social guy. And my understanding is that he and Larry don't necessarily see eye to eye. Not that there's any necessarily bad blood, but I think
I remember they sat next to each other at a Suns game, and everybody's like, oh, look, they get along, look at them.
Well, and I think if you can't get along with Larry Fitzgerald, there's something genuinely, wrong with your soul, and you need to, go see a priest. Because the super nice guy, always, he's had a lot of quarterbacks, and he gets along with all of them. And so this... I'm not real excited about the Cardinals, and the fact that they keep Steve as the general manager of the team, or the front office guy.
No, I thought that he's a leader. He needs to lead by example. He gets pulled over, and the video goes viral of him on the 4th of July getting pulled over with DUI. That's something that you've got to just fall on the sword. That's something that you've got to walk away. Now that we've, I've got to get past that. Obviously,
well, and
a lot's happened since then.
My frustration with Steve is the DUI thing. I mean, people are people. People make bad choices. If he's an alcoholic or whatever, that's between him and his family and his boss. I mean, that really is between him and Michael. But strategically, I don't think he's a great first or third round draft guy. He historically not a huge fan of taking another tackle with your first round pick. So I don't care for his draft strategy. And
was Isabella over DK Metcalf a mistake?
I don't know. Will time tell? Probably.
It's like E.T. and Crush. I don't know if you've ever seen Dogma, the Kevin Smith movie.
Oh yes.
It's like the guy that still owes me $10 from what's going to be a better film between E.T. and Crush Groove. He's like, hey, fuck you, man. Time's going to tell on that one.
That's right. Time will tell. Yeah.
And that's really my favorite Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, interaction or ensemble of a cast.
Oh man. Well, Kevin Smith has just an ability to just make the absurd just absolutely treasuring. Like, you can treasure it. And I'm not a comedy fan, but I love Kevin Smith and all his stuff. He's amazing.
I think that he was oversold to me before the first time I watched Clerks in like 1997.
Yeah, so was that a letdown for you?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I see it. I definitely see it. I think the Jay and Silent Bob characters are awesome. I think
Dogma is definitely better.
I like Dogma. Of the Jersey trilogy, I'm a Mallrats person probably.
Yeah.
I mean, Chasing Amy is probably the best to watch it like one time.
Film. Yeah.
But and I go back and I watch all these Joey Lauren. I'm like, is it just because she was fucking Kevin's man? And even like Dazed and Confused is one of my favorite movies that stars a lot of the aforementioned people. So
yeah.
Hey, I was working on a couple of setups. I wanted to say that you went from Rise to Roughing the Passer, and from Bourbons to Blitzes. But neatly on the rocks.
Yeah.
I do recall you running a couple of episodes of. Is it whiskey evaluation? What are you doing there?
Oh, so, I mean, it's just kind of a conversation. It really started as just an excuse to talk to people about whiskey. So it's kind of historically been a mishmash of, like, interviews and talking about, like, the bottles that people are talking about. Or if people hear I'm into whiskey, they're always super into, like, okay, give me a recommendation. What do you want to, what should I get for X, category? But I was on a hiatus, and, as you know, this kind of stuff takes a lot of time, and there's a lot of thought and preparation that goes into booking guests and figuring out content, and then pushing content. And so I kind of took a break due to work, and I'm bringing on a co-host, my dear friend Lisa, and we are going to tag team the hell out of it. And do a lot more interviews with people, and just kind of nerd out about whiskey in general. So everything from, how it makes it into the bottle and what to do with it after.
What's funny, as somebody that just likes to consume and doesn't really do the tastings or anything like that, what's something people don't know about whiskey?
Bourbon doesn't have to be made in Kentucky, but it does have to be made in the United States. Outstanding. And I promised myself I wasn't going to do this to you, so I don't want to nudge you too much in this category. But you do have a husband that's that's a journalist, covers Arizona State sports on the whole. Mostly Arizona State football.
Okay, and you guys are similar. Are you P Denny 29 and he's B Denny 29?
That's correct.
On the Twitters. Paige, Denny, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks.
This is the Super Serious Sports Show. Listening to CentralCityRadio.com. Check us out every Sunday. Once again, I'm Jeff Rich, and this was the Super Serious Sports Show. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you.
It was fun. Yeah.